Gossip Girl is iconic. Now, we're only going to talk about seasons 1 and 2. I cannot bring myself to go further than that. I genuinely believe that the show should have ended at the end of season 2. To be honest, season 1 is the only critically good season, but I think it would have made the most narrative sense to end the show at the end of season 2 when they finish high school. Remember that scene after they graduate when they try and find out who Gossip Girl is, and there's that scene where she's like, "It's all of you."
You wanted to meet Gossip Girl? Well, look around. You just did. I'm nothing without you.
That would have been a better ending, in my opinion. That way, the fans could keep having their own theories and enjoy the mystery. Finding out who Gossip Girl was never the draw for me personally. Because she also narrated the show, I think it would have just made more sense to let her be a mere narrative device. In the books, you don't even find out who she is. Season 2 isn't very good because it loses its satirical tone, and instead of critiquing the uber-rich, it fawns over them. That being said, it is from season 3 that Gossip Girl completely falls from grace. And boy, does it plummet! Gossip Girl is a great example of letting a show go on for too long. It's always better to just end it prematurely whilst it's still good, rather than letting it drag on so shit like this happens. The show came out in September 2007, finishing in 2012, which isn't that long ago in terms of history. But 2007 was another world, which means that some of the messages in the show wouldn't fly in today's climate, which is what today's video is about. But let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Tara Mooknee, and this is the only channel on YouTube where all videos are written and produced by a cow. She couldn't be in the video today because she actually hasn't watched all of Gossip Girl, and today's video is full of spoilers. It's on her list, and she wants to be kept on her toes. On her hooves, rather. But if you like and subscribe, she might appear in the next video. So, was Gossip Girl feminist? That might sound like a silly question, but there are mixed perspectives on this. When I asked people on Instagram, the overwhelming majority said no, it was not feminist. By today's social climate, the show doesn't match. And the articles arguing that the show was feminist, or the characters were, gave examples of, in my opinion, Girlboss feminism. A popular argument advocating for Gossip Girl's feminism is strong female characters, which is a silly phrase in my opinion. I don't need my female characters to be strong, I need them to be complex. I found an article in the New Statesman that perfectly captures my issue with this phrase. Sherlock Holmes gets to be brilliant, solitary, abrasive, bohemian, whimsical, brave, sad, manipulative, neurotic, vain, untidy, fastidious, artistic, courteous, rude, and a polymath genius. Female characters get to be strong. Wow. Couldn't have said it better myself. So hear me out. If we put aside the lack of diversity and questionable character arcs, which I'll get to later, perhaps Gossip Girl was slightly more feminist than we remember it being. Only a little bit though. One thing I will give the show credit for is that it was surprisingly ahead in terms of acknowledging that women enjoy sex just as much as men.
I just have to finish something. A girl has to take matters into her own hands.
Don't forget, God always watching, Miss Blair.
I have an itch that only Chuck can scratch, and he won't oblige unless I tell him I love him.
Interestingly, there was a scene that involved sex toys with Chuck and Blair, which did get cut, but I appreciate the thought. Now, people often point out the slut-shaming in the show. And I agree, slut-shaming is terrible. I hate it more than when Siggy burps in my face. But, wait, don't go! The instances where characters slut-shame each other are realistic. There's a difference between characters being problematic and the writing being problematic, which it is for other reasons, which I'll get to. Like when Chuck attempts to rape Jenny, and Serena and Dan rescue her, and he screams, calling Serena a slut. That's classic behaviour from a guy who can't take rejection and doesn't understand consent. I've met those guys, and I'm sure you have too. Or when Blair slut-shames Serena when she finds out about her sleeping with Nate, her boyfriend at the time.
Oh, too bad you missed the assembly. Not that it matters. Brown doesn't offer degrees in slut.
The words she uses are sexist, but when you're a teenager and your best mate sleeps with your boyfriend, you might not be the bigger person about it. Doesn't make it okay, but it happens. Or when Vanessa slut-shames Serena to Dan, who's his girlfriend at the time, because she's jealous because she's still in love with Dan.
It's okay. I'm sure Serena knows what to do. What with her vast experiences with boarding school professors, Pamplonian bullfighters, best friends, boyfriends.
That's enough now.
Or when everyone finds out that Blair slept with Chuck just after she and Nate broke up. People at school shame her, and Nate gets really angry even though he slept with her best friend whilst they were together. Double standards, yes, but that scenario was eerily relatable. In season 2, when Serena slut-shames Lexi, do you remember that boyfriend she had, Aaron, who is son of Cyrus, Blair's stepdad? He's not in it for very long. Basically, Lexi's a bit of an N-log, let's be honest.
Oh, they're adorable. You know, I feel inspired to shop at the Gap or validate my self-image with overpriced cosmetics.
And Serena meets her because Aaron is still friends with her, his ex, Lexi. And because she's still in love with Dan and Lexi starts flirting with Dan, I think Serena gets a bit jealous. Aaron then tells Serena that Lexi has this rule that whenever she goes on a date with a guy, she's got to sleep with him on the first date because of sexual, sexist and double standards. I don't know.
Lexi likes to sleep with guys on the first date. She claims it's a political statement against male-dominated sexual hypocrisy or something.
Well, can't she just vote?
You don't need a reason, Lexi. If you just want to get that nut, get that nut.
We've been dating for a while. We've gotten to know each other. It's not like we're rushing into anything.
Right. And that's important.
Well, it is. I know Lexi has a more come-hither attitude about sex.
And interestingly, very early on in season 1, there's a situation where a man cheats on his female partner and the partner takes it out on the other woman, or girl in this case. And the episode I'm talking about is when Blair has her annual sleepover and invites Jenny, and bear with me a sec, but basically they're at a club. Don't know how the hell they got in. Blair's 16, Jenny's 14. And Blair gets hit on by some gross Wall Street guy, and Jenny dares her to make out with him. So she makes out with him, and then Blair dares Jenny to call his girlfriend, because Blair managed to steal his phone whilst they were making out. So Jenny calls her. Then the girlfriend arrives at the club.
Are you her? Are you Claire? What? No.
And she's a bit angry with her fiancé, but she's mostly angry with the girl. And when they find out that the girls are underage, their reaction is questionable.
I'm gonna kill you. Oh, you must be Amanda, right? Well, I would think twice before marrying him because he's a pig. Hey, it was a dare. A dare? What are you, children?
Yeah, pretty much. She's 14.
14?
Jesus, no, I swear, I had no idea, baby. Look at her, and she's jailbait.
Only thing causing a problem is a cocktail napkin you're wearing.
That's what I'm talking about.
The sad thing is, though, I think there are women who would respond like this. Their partner cheats on them, perhaps with a younger girl, and it's the younger girl's fault for being such a vixen. So the point I'm making is that the slut shaming in the show isn't what damages its feminism score. The scenes with it are accurate portrayals of how teens and even adults talk about female sexuality. That being said, slut shaming is terrible and don't do it. If you do, the cow will be extremely disappointed in you. Not angry, just disappointed. As well as slut shaming, people often point to the portrayal of female friendships, particularly Blair's and Serena's. It's often portrayed as catty, and a lot of their arguments revolve around guys. Also, for the most part, the women in the show are defined by the guys they're dating. I mean, after season 2, or even during, Serena Serena's whole character is just whichever guy she's dating. Most of the issues with the writing comes from the fact that the writing quality plummets after season 1 and even more so after season 2. The initial depiction of Blair and Serena's friendship was intriguing. Blair is a character who plays by the rules and adheres to the conservative standards for women, whereas Serena defies them. Blair is initially sympathetic because she's so tightly wound up and Serena just gets everything handed to her. But then it just turns into one petty drama after another and they end up fighting over Dan of all people. Oh yeah, remember when Serena made a sex tape of her and Dan having sex without his consent whilst he was dating Blair? So if we go with the side that argues that Gossip Girl wasn't and isn't feminist, one might ask, is this even a problem? Well, depends who you ask. Some people watch Gossip Girl purely for the glamour and drama, and yeah, makes sense. What frustrates me about Gossip Girl is that it had the potential for more nuanced social commentary. When I watch Love Island, for instance, I don't expect anything like that. The premise is hot people picking each other purely based on looks and then parading around in barely any clothes so they can gawk at each other. If I go in expecting any more, then joke's on me. Whereas in Gossip Girl, there were opportunities for it to go deeper. Season 1 had this enticing and sardonic tone when talking about the rich characters.
The French Revolution had cake.
Let's go.
The American Revolution had tea. But looks like the overthrow of Blair Waldorf, well... Who said you need a silver spoon to dole out just desserts?
It was like teen Succession before Succession was a thing. The whole point was that the rich elites are devoid of morals because of their wealth and power, and it self-consciously and cleverly critiqued that. Whereas from season 2, it lost that scathing, ironic tone and then went on to make all of the poorer characters the villains and bent over backwards to redeem the richer characters. Romy Deschanel made an absolutely exquisite video all about class politics in Gossip Girl, so I won't go into that stuff anymore. Go watch that video because it's fucking fab. Back to gender. Let's first talk about the role of the male gaze in the show. Gossip Girl was one of the first US teen shows to shamelessly sexualize teenagers. It was a marketing tactic. Genius. It worked. And the sex scenes with teenagers were steamy, literally. And I find it interesting how even the cinematography plays into this. Like when the camera pans up on Blair's body when she tries to, with Nate. And just the shots on Serena in general. Also, I didn't think this was a sexual thing, but what was with all the shots of Jenny's feet? What was the reason? And taking into account the fact that Gossip Girl ends up being Dan, which doesn't make sense. Fuck you if you think it does. I saw this annoying TikTok that was like, Dan was always Gossip Girl. Remember in the pilot when he's looking at Gossip Girl on his laptop? Okay, he's reading it. So did all the characters. He also had a cat in the pilot that disappeared. Blair's mum changed. Chuck had a mum who was alive in the pilot and was then inexplicably dead. Gossip Girl doesn't make narrative sense. Sorry, where was I? If one accepts that he's Gossip Girl, we then realise that the whole show and all of its events are through Dan's gaze. Gossip Girl, the blogger, looks into people's private lives without their consent. She's a voyeur. And it's Dan who has that final say in how other people's private lives are presented. He does this to basically stalk his dream girl. The first episode provides yet another perfect example when it shows Nate and Serena's sex scene in the bar through a lens that is blurred around the edges. In this moment, all viewers become voyeurs, finding enjoyment in watching a private moment that is not their own. This theory is often applied to books by saying, unless a book directly addresses you, then theoretically you have no place to be looking at and reading the pages. Television shows are the same, and since they seldom directly address viewers, one generally has no right to be watching. In the same scene as above, the camera pans to Chuck watching Nate and Serena having sex from a balcony above. This is weird and should make most viewers feel uncomfortable, but instead it is presented as an intriguing plot twist that will later cause interesting drama. In viewers' minds, it is nothing more than that, and this is a problem. So now it's time to talk about Chuck. Here we go. So my problem with Chuck is that he insults YouTubers.
You're gonna tell me the life of a YouTube filmmaker is better than this?
Kidding, obviously. He's enormously misogynistic.
There's something wrong with that level of perfection. It needs to be violated. And seal the deal with Blair, because you're also entitled to tap that ass. Love it when you talk dirty.
You just love when a girl talks to you.
Actually, I prefer them when they're not talking. You held a certain fascination when you were beautiful, delicate, and untouched. But now you're like one of the Arabians my father used to own. Rode hard and put away wet. I don't want you anymore, and I can't see why anyone else would.
And he's an attempted rapist, and then goes on to be the main hero of the show. Now, here's the thing, as I mentioned earlier, a problematic character does not automatically mean problematic writing. Firstly, Chuck being sexist is real life. And teenage boys who are sexist can go on to learn the error of their ways. So redeeming Chuck from this isn't inherently bad. With regards to the attempted rapes, they just messed that one up. They could have explored how consent is dealt with regards to men and boys with wealth and power. I found a fascinating article which draws parallels between Chuck's storyline and the Brett Kavanaugh case, and the culture of sexual assault in prep schools and elite universities. And in the past year, there's been a domino effect of stories coming out about London prep schools with this exact problem. How does a guy who's grown up with everything handed to him and with no limitations learn about consent? Are they taught to handle being told no? Or even if it's acknowledged that they violated someone's consent, what are the consequences, if there are any? With boys like Chuck, people often go on to use the affluenza argument or say, think of their future. Don't let the mistakes of their youth define their adulthood. It would have been interesting to see these questions being asked in the show. Both in Gossip Girl and in life, a select group of teenagers not yet old enough to legally imbibe the martinis they drink get away with criminal behavior in their youths, only to become the decision makers of the world in their adulthoods. An alternative route for the writers could have been a nuanced and difficult redemption arc for Chuck with rehabilitation. They could have explored how a person does something like that and then has to grapple with it in order to become a better person. I understand that the show wasn't trying to make some profound commentary about SA, but if you are going to include it, you need to deal with it responsibly. It can't just be a little side plot to highlight what a douche a guy is. Though unintentionally, I do think the writers did depict some realistic consequences of SA. It shows how survivors often don't go on to report their experiences for a host of reasons, one being that they know the perpetrator. The fact that guys like Chuck can end up being both a prince and a perpetrator. He wasn't just a 2D villain, but also someone who could be charming, care for a rescue dog, and donate millions to charity. Also, Chuck mentions that he lost his V to his Italian au pair, which,
But my goal was always to prepare you for this day. to help you go from being a boy to a man.
Italian au pair took care of that.
Chuck, please.
What the fuck? This could be a contributing factor as to why the guy doesn't understand consent. But instead, it was written as a punchline. This plotline isn't the issue. Chuck becoming a better person and a more sympathetic character isn't necessarily an issue. It's that the show haphazardly introduces this plotline and then drops it for the sake of convenience for a character arc. It's a mere momentary scandal that isn't shown to have a long-term effect on the characters affected. Chuck gets to become a better man without having to face what he's done. Except that one time. He becomes better because of Blair, who's actually also a bad person. Side note, if Dan was Gossip Girl, then that would mean it was him who posted,
Looks like little Jay might end up with a new boy and a ticket to the inner circle. Or will C end up with another victim? I told you I love parties.
while watching his little sister being led upstairs. So, also Chuck goes full American Psycho in season 2, episode 4, when he hires a girl to pretend to be a new student to date Dan in order to make Serena jealous so that Serena becomes Queen Bee of the school, so that Blair is overthrown as Queen Bee in order to mess with Blair, in order to get with her, I guess. What the fuck?
Why do you care who's queen of the high school?
I have my reasons.
Oh, Lord, that was dark. I want to end on a high note. So, I'm going to talk about some things I find funny about the show. Like that fucking choir.
G-L-L-A-M-N-O-O-R-O-U-S, yeah. G-L-L-A-M-N-O-O-R-O-U-S, we're flying first class. Up in the sky, popping champagne. Living a life in the fast lane. I won't change by the glamorous. Ooh, the flossy, flossy. The glamorous, glamorous, by the glamorous. Ooh, the flossy, flossy. Yeah.
It's just so absurd that they were singing Fergie in their school assembly. Jenny in general.
It's funny how you're ready to condemn your sister, but
Chuck and Blair,
who's done some pretty questionable things, gets a free pass.
The fans were so hard on Jenny, even though she's never done anything nearly as bad as the shit that Chuck and Blair have done, whom the fans adore. And the writing is to blame for that. This was by design, and Broey talks about this in depth in her videos, so again, go watch that. Honestly, Jenny is one of my favourite characters. From the beginning, people underestimate her as some cute little kid, but she's actually badass. Like when she tells Nate about Chuck and Blair, and when Blair threatens her, she tells her to toss off.
But if you walk away from me now, I will also ruin you. How are you gonna do that?
When she insults Dan's trousers.
But even you should know that jealousy clashes with LL Bean Pants.
The fact that she's still compassionate to Blair after she sabotages her job by sending all the models home from Eleanor Waldorf's fashion show during Fashion Week.
This is about Serena. I didn't realize. And why would you? You might be privileged, Blair, but you work for every single thing you achieved. I wanted to be your friend last year for a reason. I wanted you to like me.
She stands up against the school bullies when they're being trash. She crashes a corporate dinner to throw a guerrilla fashion show. She's great. Leave her alone. This scene that is burned into my brain because what the fuck is going on with that wall? Her face looks photoshopped on. And finally, the concept of lesbian Mexican food.
2-for-1 taco night.
Stop it.
It's lesbian Mexican.
What a show! It might not be a beacon of social commentary and good writing, but it's a fun watch. For the first 2 seasons. And Dan being Gossip Girl? Ugh, bad boy. But you know who's a good boy? Today's subscription Pet Shoutout. This is Apollo, and Apollo has donated his blood to help out sick doggies. And his owner mentioned that their aunt and uncle got Apollo an engraved medal for donating blood. What a superstar. He definitely deserves a round of applause. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, because 1 like equals 1 choir turning up on your doorstep singing Fergie songs. And if you're not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe, because when you do subscribe, you become a little subscription. And when you become a little subscription, I will keep you underneath my pillow in the other room with the rest of my little subscriptions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Hello everybody, thank you so much for watching the video. I just wanted to add, thank you for 300k. That is so exciting. We're getting bigger and bigger. My pillow is overflowing with bodies, alive ones. Yeah, so thank you. And I also just want to say an extra big thank you to my patrons in this video. Extra big thank you. I wouldn't be able to make a video like this without you, and this was actually very fun, and I plan on doing more media-y type stuff. So yeah, feel free to suggest shows or films, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, I forgot to say, as a reward for 300k, I have found an extra cute video of Siggy from when she was a pup. Enjoy.